Hello and welcome back, people. Thank you for joining us today for a review session of lessons 3 to 6 for the data track. I see some people in the chat. Thank you for joining. Hi, Magdi. I hope I'm not butchering your name. How are you doing? Thank you for being here. Hi, Kazim. Thank you for being here and supporting the stream. I'm glad you guys could make it. How have you guys been? Perfect. Learning is what we'll be doing today. So great. What time is it there where you are, Magdi? It's about 10 a.m. around where I am, Eastern US time. I know it is late for Kazim. Kazim, I hope I'm not butchering your name either. I'm sorry if I am, and please feel free to correct me in the chat. Okay, that's good to know. Let me open up the lessons while you guys put something in the chat. So today the agenda would be to actually take questions as priority, but in from lessons 3, 4, 5, and 6, we will not be touching 7 and 8. There is a lot of stuff there that a lot of people were having trouble with, but that will be another session, I believe. And right now, if we have any direct questions from lessons 3 to 6, we'll take those. If not, we will actually touch upon some of the exercises or quizzes that people seem to be having trouble with. There are multiple questions or something on the Slack channel. So what we'll do is we'll actually go through them, explain through those, and just let this be recorded for people who might want to revisit at a later time. So that's the idea for today, doing all the spreadsheets until lesson 7. But if you guys have specific questions about specific quizzes, then go ahead. Oh, it's 4:10 p.m. Sunday evening, early evening. Hi, Medic. How are you? Sure, but Medic, this is not a regular study with me stream. This is a special review session for some of the course people, course buddies. But yeah, you can join in if you like to, if you like learning Excel. We're doing some basic Excel work. Oh, that's 4 p.m. there too. Oh, you both are from the area. Okay. Then that's not too bad a time, I guess. For those who are coming from the data track, Medic is our regular channel subscriber and she's our moderator. She is a regular supporter of the channel. So thank you for all the support, Medic. Okay, so let's see. What do we have here? So do you guys have any specific questions that you guys need to walk through, or something that you thought would be good to revise? Anything particular, any exercise particular from lesson 4, I believe? There's nothing much in lesson 3. From lesson 4, we did one quiz last time, which was actually sorting and extracting text. I know some people have been having that issue, but I guess we did touch upon that in the last session, so that's recorded for the others who want to go and revisit. Or do you suggest I go through all the exercises? Kazim and Magdi, I'm really open to whatever you guys feel like doing. Right. Okay. Nothing specific. That's fine. So what I'll do is I'll go through the Slack channel and I'll see what other people have been asking more about, what they seem to be stumbling upon, and then pick it up from there. By the way, this is some tea for those of you who don't know. I am a caffeine addict. Sorry to be accepting that on camera, but it is what it is. Okay. Let me know in the chat if you guys drink caffeine, tea, coffee, and how do you guys like it. Let's keep the chat a little lively while I figure out which exercise I'm going through. Okay, going through lesson number 4. So going line by line, lesson number 4, right? Let's see. Lesson number 4 has math formulas like sum, average, and trim. Those are pretty self-explanatory, I believe. Next, we have substitute. Basically, what substitute does is it actually takes the text that you want to substitute. It asks you what the old text you want to be replaced is, and the new text would be the actual new text that you want to replace it with. I believe there was an exercise on that. Yes. So substitute is basically pretty straightforward. The quiz, although in lesson 4, had multiple selections that were true. The only difference was how the cell range had been fixed. So that's like a dollar sign. For example, for those who, let me switch on let me show Excel. Okay. So here we are. This is our Excel. So for example, is equals to substitute. So this is the text that you want to link, that you want to change. This would be the address of the cell that you want to get changed. This would be the actual text you want to change into something. This is your old text, and this is your new text. What do you want it replaced with? But the exercise was actually, so for example, let me see. So the cell reference of this is D4. So D4 is the cell reference of this, but then there can be 3 forms of it. So D4, if I put a dollar sign before D, I'm fixing D. Anything with the dollar sign gets fixed. So if you carry forward the formula down or anywhere else, like left, right, or whatever, that column remains fixed. So this is D. I'm fixing D. That means I'm fixing the column D. So for example, this is D is fixed. If I were to copy this formula and drag it down, D would be fixed, but actually it makes more sense if I go towards the right. So this is D4, this is again D4. And if I were to copy this formula down, this would be like this. So we're just fixing the column with one dollar sign next to the column. Similarly, other possibility is fixing the column and the row. So that's how I would do it. And if I drag this down now, this will fix the actual cell. So I've fixed the row, fixed the column, so I've actually technically fixed the cell. The third possibility is to fix the row but not the column. So what happens is if I drag it down, the row will not change. Although if I were to drag it on the side, so the row is fixed, so the columns will change. But if you go down, the rows won't change. So the rows will fix once going down, but as you move, your columns will keep changing because the columns are not fixed. So that's what the dollar sign does. And a shortcut for that is F4. So if you have this cell here, I do F2, I get into the formula bar and I press F4 once, it'll change. Then again, it will change again to double both the rows and columns fixed. And then again, it'll just fix the rows. Depending on what you want, you can keep pressing F4 till you get what you want. This is pretty handy keyboard shortcut for those who don't know. So yeah, that's what the column fixing was. And if you understand this concept, you will be able to and if you just read what the substitute formula asks you for, you'll be able to do the quiz in the lesson. Okay, let's see chat, what people are saying. Hey Jay, thank you for joining. This is not a regular stream. This is just like a special review session for some of my buddies. But yeah, I'm glad you are here to join us. It will not be a muted session. Sorry for that if you guys are here for the Pomodoros. But it's nice to have you, and it's good to have you people come and say hi. Okay, moving on to other parts of the lesson. So there was a substitute, then there was find left, right, and mid, something we touched upon in the last session. So if that's something that you guys are having trouble with, please go check out the stream we had earlier. That's extracting the text. Then we have reformatting the text to upper, lower. Let me see what exercises we had. Pretty straightforward. Then we have math functions of add, subtract, multiply, divide. Didn't see many questions around that. Duplicates is fairly easy. Next up, splitting columns. Okay, yeah. So this, so there are multiple exercises on this data of salaries of players. There were quite a few questions on this. So first, it was usually for the salary of California teams, average salary of California teams, I believe. Let me see. Sorting data. Let me open the Slack to see in lesson 4 what are the most common questions. 417. 417 is sort data. Okay. How isn't Brad the fifth with the highest salary? Okay, so let's look at this. Let me grab this data and put it on the screen. Let me change my screen. Okay, so here we are. Okay, this should be good. So this is the data that we got. Now let's see what the exercise tells us to do. It says download, sort by salary, largest to smallest. So for that, I'm going to data, and I'm going to actually, there are multiple ways to do this. I select everything and then I sort by salaries. Is that what they asked? Sort by salary, yes. Cell values, largest to smallest. I hope you guys can see this though. Apparently not. I'm not sure how to show my screen because I have a pop-up on my screen that I'm using, the sort box. I don't know how to show the sort box on the screen to you guys. So I select everything, I go to data, and then reduce the size so maybe you guys will be able to see. No, sorry about this, I didn't realize you guys won't be able to see. Okay, let's see if I can move it a little bit on the screen. Okay, let's unfix it. Okay, we can see more here. I'm going to leave it at that. So coming back to Excel, I'm going to select all my data that I want to sort with the headings actually. If you don't have headings, that still works. You go to sort. Won't show. How do I show this to you guys? Wait, I have an idea. Let me try something. Okay, yes. Okay, here. So this is the sort box that I'm working with. So when I selected that, it opened this up. I'm going to select by salary. Still doesn't show anything. Sorry, it's not showing up on the screen though. So you see the sort box over here at least. So when you press this drop down, you'll get all the headers over there. See, this shows my data has headers. If your data doesn't have headers, that's fine too. In that case, your columns will be the actual column names, and you can select by which you want to sort. So over here, I'll be, oh, sorry, you guys couldn't see. So this is the sort box. When I select all that data and click sort in my in the Excel, what it does is so here this is salary, I can have team. You can't see the drop down just here, but I have team, player, salary, and position over here. And then in the cell values, I have cell color, cell values, font. So I'll go by cell values. And then the order would be to have A to Z or Z to A. So this is, if I select salary over here, Excel will recognize it has numbers in cell values. And I'm going to do largest to smallest, which is what we want. So this kind of sorts out my whole data set like that. So highest salary on the top and lower salaries on the bottom. So after sorting, you are asked what's the name of the player with the fifth highest salary. So the fifth highest salary would be 3, 4, and 5. That would be Pedro Martinez. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is Pedro Martinez, which is the correct answer. This is for somebody who has been asking this question in the Slack chats. They were having a different name, so maybe this can help you out. Then the second question says, what team does the first outfielder in the sorted list play for? So the first outfielder in the sorted list play for. So that's Boston Red Sox. Which is not correct, apparently. Wait, let me get the columns more readable. Did it say outfielder? What team does the first outfielder in the sorted list play for? First outfielder is this guy. And that's not right, apparently. I have California. And I am Angels. Oh, so we sorted by the salaries. Now we have to sort by position and then player. So it asks us to sort again. Sort by salary and then sort by position. And then I add another level here. I hope you guys can see it on the screen. Yeah. So we have to sort by position and then sort by the player. So I would do A to Z over here and then by player, A to Z. Okay. This would actually bring us to the first outfielder. First outfielder would be in Anaheim Angels. So that's what the question asked for. Sorry for the confusion. I didn't read the question properly. It made me sort otherwise before quiz 2. Okay, so that's that. Let me see in the chat if there are any questions so far, or if other people have joined. Hey Estella, how are you? Thank you for joining. There don't seem to be any more questions here, so I think I'm gonna continue. So we did the sort exercise. The next is filter. There weren't many questions. Let me see on Slack what kind of other questions people have been asking. Okay. Exercise 19, filter. Yeah, I think we're good with lesson number 4. Let's jump into the next lesson then. Filter and then recap. Okay, so the next lesson number 5. Kazim, if you're still here and if you have any ideas of what students have been having issues with, let me know. I can touch those first if you think there are certain questions that have been repeatedly coming up. Or something that you felt that should be revised more than the others. Seems like people in lesson 5 have been having issues with VLOOKUPs. Okay, let's see what the lesson asks us to do. So it starts with aggregation of functions, sum, average, max, min, median, standard deviation. And then we have logical if functions, all those logical operators, and or nots. They seem to be fine. The only issue a lot of people were having with this is they were not getting rid of duplicate fruit rows or something. Countif, SUMIF. Let's see, exercise number. Last exercise. It's usually the last exercise, the VLOOKUPs, where people had some trouble mostly. Pivot tables. Okay, what I'll do is I'll do one pivot table so people know how to play with them, how to, move around stuff, because that can come handy in a lot of exercises. So I'm going to take exercise number 11, pivot tables, so that we can do, yeah, let's do exercise number 11, pivot tables. So the data we have is the same salary data that we downloaded before. I'm actually going to go and remove all the sorts that we did, bringing it in its original form. So this is the data, it's in its original form. So once we've downloaded the data, we select all this data. And then we go, we have this on the screen so I know what you guys can see. Then so once we select this data, we go to insert and we do pivot table. And I usually do new sheet. Okay. So this is, whoa. Table won't show properly. Let me bring it here. And let me do this. This won't help, but this will. So I'm just bringing it in the frame for you guys to be able to see it properly. Okay, so that's how the pivot table shows up for me. Here we go. So now the pivot table, this is empty. So once I select stuff in this, that's when things will start showing up here. So the exercise calls for download the data, select the data set and click insert pivot table, which is what we just did. Move the team field to rows and position field to columns. So move team. So what you do is you take teams and you put it in rows, and you take position and put it in columns. So that's how it looks like. What does the exercise say next? Aggregate the player field in values with count. So when we come here, the player field, so the player field in values, and what we do is we go to field settings, which you guys can't see again. So when you click over here, you get a pop-up, and the very last setting is value field settings. This is not popping up on the screen, but I can see it with at my end. If you just click on that count of player, you'll be able to see a pop-up, a list of drop downs, and the last setting would be value field settings. You click on that. Once you click on that, let me try getting it for you guys here. Okay, so now you guys can see this is what pops up. So when I click count of player, so I'll cancel this, I'll go here and I'll say value field settings, and this will pop up. So now that you guys can see what the pop-up says, the question told us to go and do what with it? It asked us to aggregate the player field and values with count. So we're gonna go here and do count. So it could be sum and average based on what your last setting was, but we do count, and that's what they're asked for, and this is what shows up. Let me know if you guys have questions, or if I'm sorry if I'm confusing you guys, just because things on my screen don't pop up the way I see them. So that's what we get. And then the question says, the quiz, how many outfielders play for the New York Yankees? So we go to New York Yankees, we say how many outfielders play for them. That's number 5. So your answer would be 5 there, which is the correct answer. And then it says remove the player free from the values. So the way to remove anything from here is you either, okay, you guys cannot even see my mouse. So by unchecking the player over here, I can do that, or I can take this and just do this. I drag and drop. So what I did was I clicked on this, dragged it outside these boxes, and it went away. Another thing is to just click the player and it goes away. So that was the first set of instructions. And then aggregate the salary field in values as sum. So coming back, aggregate the salary in values, and the value field settings again would be the sum. So that's what they want. Similarly, I dragged and dropped, right? But similarly, what I can do this, the way I can do this is click salary and it will show up, and then I can go and do whatever field settings that I want to do. Okay, let's see what the question asks for. Aggregate the salary. The question is, how much did the Boston Red Sox team spend on shortstop salaries in 2003? How much did the Boston Red Sox spend on salaries, shortstop salaries? So that would be Boston Red Sox Boston Red Sox. They want to know shortstop salaries. So that would be, if I format it, that would be 11,625,000, which is your correct answer. So that's how you do a pivot table. You can move things around. You can actually also do filters. So if I were to, let's say, filter by team, what I could do is over here, this is a drop down and I can select multiple. So I can actually just go and select NIM and let me see if you guys can see the pop-up again. No, you cannot. Okay, let me get the pop-up for you guys on the screen. Sorry about that. It's not as easy as it looks. Sometimes things don't show up on the screen. I don't know how to get that filter value to you guys. So when I do click on this, I can go to field settings. Maybe I can get, yeah, I can get teams. It's not where I want to be. So when I go to teams, this is what shows up on my screen, right? All. And this is like a drop down. I'm trying to drop it down. It drops down for me just fine. It just doesn't show on the screen. So I'm just going to explain through it. So when you drop down, you get the list of all the teams that are in the data set. And you can select one or more. Just as it is, if you select on one of the names, that box, and click OK, you will actually be selecting that and that will show up over here. But you can actually select multiple. For that, when you click on the box, there's a checkbox at the bottom which says select multiple items. And once you do that, it lets you select more than one. So I'll be selecting NIM Angels and let's say Oakland Athletics and clicking OK, then this will show multiple items here. Because I've selected multiple teams, so I filtered it for that team. So this filtering it for that team gives me the data just related to those teams. This function was pretty handy to do the exercise after that. If you want to check that out, go to the Slack channel and see. I have actually put screenshots of what I did there for this if you want more explanations on the quiz that I'm talking about. Okay, moving on. So we touched a little bit on the pivot tables. Let me just show you a name range as well. I'm just going to get rid of this filter so we have more data to work with. So this is just random. So now we need to work with name ranges. Let me go to the data tab here. Okay, so what I can do is this column is the whole team, right? But let's say I want to do lookups or anything and I want to use this whole range. What I'll do is I can name it. There are multiple ways to do that. What I'll do is I'll select the whole data from where the data is without the headings. I'm going to select it. And what I can do is I can go here where it says A2 and I can actually just say name it as team. So whenever I call for team, this will be that range. So basically I name this whole range and I can just call that name range anywhere in my formula. So if I were to do a lookup, so I can actually look up or index match for that matter, I can actually just use this directly instead of having to go and the alternative thing would be to go and select this whole data here. So team, and this will be the whole thing. Now that I select the data range, I'll select the next column to show you how the data range shows up without the name. So let's suppose I'll do the player, I'll select the whole range. So this range will now, the formula would show up as this, this whole thing here, which I can actually I can actually lock if I'm using this formula up and down, like for index match formulas or whatever. So this is how it will show up, because this range is not named. If I were to name this range similar to the teams, see, this would actually show up by the name, like how this does, is equal to the team. So that's what name ranges are. This is one way to name them directly over here. Another way is, let's name salaries. So I'm going to select all the salaries. I'm going to go to formulas. I'm going to go to the name. Oh, you guys cannot see that. Again, sorry about that. Okay, here. This is better. Yeah. So we were doing salaries. So I'm going to go select salaries range. Yeah. I'm going to go select salaries range, and I'm going to go to the name manager, which is right here. And the name manager will actually list all the names that we've given so far. So we did name team. I'll say go new, and this pop-up will show up, and I'm going to say salary. So it picked up, because I've selected that, it kind of picked up. So it's being smart about it, because it just took the header name, and the reference would be C2 to C382, which is the actual data that I selected. And I just click OK, and that will show up here. Now, once I've done this, if I go here and say salary, that name range will show up. So there are two ways to manage one is in the name manager, and one you can actually just select the data and just write it over here. I hope that makes sense. Okay, next up. So I think that should help with the VLOOKUPs. Moving on to lesson number 6. Yes. Let's see. What do we have here? Here we have more charts, since it's visualization of data. We have pie charts that seem to be working just fine. People did have some issues where there were pivot tables involved. I guess I've explained a bit about pivot tables for them to be more comfortable with it. Next up, let me just open Slack and see what are the questions usually from that area. There's a question about pivot tables that we kind of addressed, so that should be good. And then we have more questions on, mostly it's on pivot tables. Let's see. Specific that I can see, mostly about pivot tables. So we have bar charts, scatter plots, Then we have line and all those sort of things. Then we have chart layout options. Those are well answered as well. Charts versus histogram, that's theoretical mostly. Next up, box and whiskers. That's pretty well answered there too with explanations. People have done a really good job on the Slack channel for recurring issues for sure. Yeah, pivot tables we touched upon. Hopefully that can give you an idea of how to play around with it. That kind of sums it up, really. Now comes the beast, lesson number 7. I guess it's not about the material, the technicality of the material itself in lesson 7. It's more like there's a lot of stuff from different aspects, from marketing, from accounting, finance, sales, and all that stuff. That kind of gets too long. But that would be an interesting section to really review, because I've kind of forgotten what it was. It's been a while since I did this. But once you get the crux of it, it's good, and only you need to remember some specific formulas of acquisition costs and whatever, but which I plan to review in the next session, not just today. Yeah. That's more theoretical and more like formula based. That will be interesting to see. Let me open the chat and see if you guys have any questions so far. Thank you, Medic. Oh, really? 4 more subs to go? That's okay. We can have a celebration once we get there. So there seem to be no more questions on these things, but I think I've touched upon the basic ideas of what people were having trouble with. So I hope this can help you guys who are doing the data track with whatever you're having trouble with. Let me see. There was a specific question on one of the things. Let me see if I cover that. Extract text, that's done. So I guess I've touched on the basic stuff that was covered in these lessons and what people have been having issues with. But I do look forward. Oh, wait. In lesson number 6, there was a question of exercise 615. Let's do that. Let's do one exercise. Let's do exercise 15 before we close out for the day. Okay, lesson 6. So I'm gonna get the data and I'm gonna show it up on the screen. Open. Let me see what you guys can see. You guys cannot see this, so I'm gonna close this. Okay, you guys can see this now. So this is the data that we're working with. So let's see what the quiz says. Get this data, then filter the data set to only include public institutions from all these states. Let's see how to filter the data. So you select all these columns, the whole data set actually. So I've selected the whole data set, and then I go to data And then there's this filter. I select that, and now my data should have all the filters on top. So all these, you see these are actually filters, and they have pop-ups which won't show again on the screen. So let me fix that for you. That's not it. I don't know how to show that to you guys. So every this if you click on these buttons, you will have a list of different filters that you can apply. It's not showing up on the screen, but let me just do it and explain it to you what I see on my screen. So once you're following along, you'll have a better idea. So filter the data set to only include public institutions. So first we have to public institutions, and we have to do it by state. They have given us 6 state names. So I'm going to open the pop-up box, and I'll see there will be a tick mark against all the different options in there. So I'm going to uncheck select all. That would uncheck all the states, and then I'm going to select the ones that I'm looking for, which is CA, then that is TX. So I'm going to go down the list that you will be seeing on your screen, and I'll be checking against them. So that would be TX. Then we have NY. Then we have MI. Then we have GA. Sorry, I'm actually not taking the names of the states. Then IL. And then you click OK, and you'll see my data set is now filtered for only those states. So you see CA shows up, and if I go down the data, you'll see all the ones that I selected, which they asked for. So once our data is actually now selected, let's see what the question says. It says copy the new filtered data set to a new tab and give the new sheet tab name this. Okay. So you gotta select all of them, the whole data set. I'll say Control C, open a new tab, Control V, and I'll name the sheet as public. That's what they want. Public selected. Okay. So we have the data over here. Now it says, the quiz says, how many records are in public selected data set? Don't include the header row in your count. How many records are there? Okay. So other than that, these are the records. Basically, how many rows? They're actually 352 rows. You can see 353 here. But actually, if you subtract the first row, so what happens is this row is the header, right? So this won't count. But there's another trick. You select all the data, and what you'll see here at the bottom, it doesn't show on the screen again. Sorry about that. So when you keep holding this, on your screen, you'll see a little box over here, right about here, which will tell you how many rows and how many columns have you selected. So I've selected 352 rows. Another way, if you can't see the box, then you know there'll be 353 rows together, all together, and one row would be actually your the headers. So you have 352 rows worth of data. So that's your answer, 352 records. But we have a problem. Filter the data set to only include public institutions from this. Okay, I think I've made a mistake. Yes, I have. I did filter it by state, but what I forgot was I've to also filter public institutions, which is this guy here, this column. So that is a reminder to self to read the question more carefully. So now it says public is 1 and private is 2. So I'm actually going to unselect this and I'm only going to select 1, which is public. And now my data set should shorten, yes. So now I have only ones here. Now I'm going to copy this data on the other sheet because my previous, I'm going to get rid of this, delete. I'm going to paste it on a new sheet. Okay, so now they're all public and only from the states I want. I'll rename it as public selected. Now we have to see how many rows worth of data do I have. So now I have 126, so I'm going to subtract 1 for the headers. So I'll be having 125 rows of data, which is the correct answer. Okay, next up, pivot the new public selected dataset to a new sheet named pivot. Okay, so coming back to our selected dataset that we're working with, I select this all and then I go to insert and I do pivot table, new worksheet. Okay, I have to rename this worksheet as, what did they ask us for? Rename this to pivot. Okay, we'll rename this to pivot. Okay, what do they want next? Now set up your pivot with rows for each state and average costs for out of state tuition, room and board. Okay, so let me see if you guys can see everything properly on the screen. Yeah, so we need to do what again? Yeah, set up your pivot with rows for each state. Okay, rows for each state. So let's take one by one. State, we drag it into rows. Then they say an average costs for out of state tuition. Out of state tuition. Here you are. Room. Oh, wait. How do they want us? Select the data for pivot rows for each state and average costs for out of tuition, room and board. Okay, out of tuition, room and board. And I will also go to value field settings, the pop-up that you guys cannot see on your screen. Now you can, and that should be an average. So I'm going to select average of this, and I'm going to do that for all of the options they've asked for. Value field settings, average. Okay, so we have average of everything for each of the states. Next, what are they asking us for? What is the average room cost for Illinois public colleges, rounded to the nearest dollar? So let's go to Illinois, and Illinois public colleges average room cost. So average room cost is this, 2430. And then, okay, The chart above stacked but doesn't look quite what is the following. Okay. The next is on the chart. So I think we should be fine with the pivot questions over here. So we did 2 questions and we were fine with that. We did the pivot part. Yeah, I guess that's about it. We were doing 615, I believe. Yes, we were doing 615, and that's about it. So I guess we are done with most of our review of basic stuff that people were having trouble with. I hope that this was helpful for you guys. No worries, Magdi. Thank you for joining and sticking out. I'm glad you could join us. And for those who will be seeing a replay of this, I hope all the review materials we've gone through is helpful and you're able to grasp those concepts better and do it on your own and not have trouble with it. Bye, Magdi. Thank you for coming in, joining us. So with that, how long has it been? I think I'm done with whatever I thought we should be reviewing for these. We have crossed our hour mark as well, so that's a good point to stop. Other than that, if you guys are from the course and you still have questions, hit me up on Slack, direct message me there, or put it in the relevant lesson channels if you have to, and I hope I can help you out there. Well, with that, I think I'm going to end the stream here and then continue my regular study with me streams for our regular viewers. But for that, thank you for joining in, tuning in and joining us on this journey. I hope I was able to help you guys out in some of the trouble areas you guys were struggling with. Good luck for the upcoming assessment, and I hope to see you guys in the next review session, which would be lesson number 7. I think I'm going to break it down into more sessions since I want to go through each and every exercise or theory part of it, since that's what we will need to remember a lot more. So yeah, with that, this brings us to the end of our session for today. Thank you for coming in and learning with us. And if you guys have any more questions, leave comments on the video as well. This video will be up and will be linked in the Slack channels for you guys to revisit should you have to. So thank you so much for joining and learning with us. I hope you guys stay productive, keep learning, stay healthy, hydrated, productive, and happy. I'll see you guys in the next session for review of lesson number 7. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Until then, bye.